There's a big difference between those few percentage points that you're probably overlooking in your portfolio. And even then, that's not the biggest thing that's going to make your portfolio go crazy, but listen up. Most people are just set into a target date fund in their largest investing account, which is the 401k retirement account. For years, they slave away at a job and put away 10% of their money because that's what they were told to do, but then they hit 65 years old and barely have enough to live on, or worse, they need to keep working because cost of living expenses have risen so sharply. If we look at some of the most used target date funds in most 401ks, they would be like these Vanguard funds here. Take a look at that expense ratio, which is 0.08%, which honestly is some of the best expenses I've seen. If you go open up your 401k or 403b or investment account right now, you'll probably see some expense ratio somewhere like 0.35% up to 0.5%. Some have been all the way up to 0.75% in some of my clients' 401ks, so go and check on that for sure. Then I like to look over here at the return on average each year since inception, especially for those that have been around for about 20 years, like these first couple. On average, the return is about 6 to 7%. Then if we go over to VOO for a second, which is the S&P 500 ETF from Vanguard. The expense ratio there is 0.03%, which is less than half expensive. When we look at how the ETF has returned since inception, which is only about 15 years, but still, it's more than double the return of any of those that we just saw before. This returns over 14% per year. So just right off the bat, one is twice as expensive and has less than half the return long term. Those numbers already start to paint the picture, but let me show you what's actually going on here. Let's say you'd been investing with about $500 out of your paycheck each and every month, and you've been doing that for the past 30 years. With the target date fund at $500 per month for 30 years, returning on average 6.5% per year, you'd now be at $518,249. If though you had chose the S&P 500 instead and it had returned that 14% on average during that period at $500 per month, you'd be at $2,140,721. Huge difference. But that's not even the biggest thing as far as what I want you to understand that's actually going to get you actually financially free and get you to those riches that you're looking for. My name's Nolan Govea, my students call me Professor G, and I made this channel to make investing simplified. Now, if you've been following me for a little while, you know that I'm an actual university professor and that I absolutely love research. I recommend you always do your own research and don't just take what some random guy on the internet has to say, even if that random guy is Professor G. My favorite tool to do research is called ProPicks, and it's found at investing.com. So thank you to investing.com for being the sponsor of today's video. Investing.com is the go-to financial website many of us use daily. When you subscribe as a member, you get access to ProPicks, and more specifically, the Investing Pro Plus, which is what I use personally. This uses artificial intelligence to analyze the market and gives you a list of the top investment opportunities. What I love about that Pro Plus is that it saves me a ton of time, and instead of spending hours researching stocks, I can now check their picks and make informed decisions in minutes. One of my favorite tools is this Warren AI tool, and it's usually where I start my research to get a solid idea of what a stock's all about. As an Investing Pro member, you don't only get access to ProPicks, but a whole suite of other powerful tools. For example, there's an ideas section where you can look into and copy the strategies of legendary investors like Warren Buffett. Like I said before, I personally use the Pro Plus on investing.com, which lets me have 65 plus predefined stock screens and 1,200 plus premium metrics for stocks. The Pro Plus is for investors who want hedge fund grade data and research capabilities to find strategic opportunities. The best part? Investing.com is running a sale, but I managed to get an even better discount for you all. This means you get the lowest price of the year on an Investing Pro Plus subscription. They just extended their huge summer sale to the end of August, and you get that extra 15% off with my discount down below. Click the link down in the description to start using Pro Plus today. So specifically finding things that's going to add to that return in your portfolio is going to be a huge must. When I look for things to add to a portfolio, I'm looking for things that are specifically going to add a bit of risk, because I know with some risk should come some reward, but I'm only able to do this because I've done the first couple of steps that I always recommend for you to do. I make sure and have a fully funded 6-month emergency fund, I have all my debt paid off, and I have some investments that are a little bit safer, so I can go a little bit more so on the growth side for a portion of my investing. If you don't have that safety built up in those couple areas that I just said, and all you're going for is all the crazy growth stuff or maybe crypto or things that are highly volatile, you could really be setting yourself up for disaster, and we just don't want to have too much risk if possible. So same as before, I like to look for ETFs that do have that potential to grow further, but they at least have some data, 10 years or more of data to show me what they do in a good market, maybe in a bad market, but at least we can see an average over a period of time. The best broad growth ETFs that I've found are QQQM, which returns the same as QQQ, but has a cheaper fee. So I'll use QQQ for the data since it has data further back. Then I really like SCHG from Charles Schwab, and then I also really like VUG from Vanguard. All three of these are nice, solid, broad growth ETFs with technology companies and have a good history of longer than a decade or more. The 10-year average on QQQ is 18.48%. The 10-year average on SCHG is 16.79%. The 10-year average on VUG is 16.26%. So on average between these three, they have a return of about 17% per year. So from the example from before, if one were to invest $500 into an ETF that returns 17% on average per year for 30 years, they would then have $3,884,634. Look at the difference between that and those first two examples. Those extra percentage points makes a huge world of difference. Side note, I'd never actually suggest that somebody has all of their money in a growth ETF, even if it's a broad growth ETF like QQQM or something. For this oversimplified example, I just wanted you to see what those extra percentage points actually do to your return long term. But the best way to invest is what I talk about on a lot of different videos, mixing in a bunch of different types of ETFs, some that are safer, some that are like a foundation, and then some that are in that growth category to get more growth possibly, but also keeps that risk at a solid minimum. The thing that's going to skyrocket your investments the most though is this. Let's say person one invests from age 25 to age 35, so just 10 years of investing. They invest $500 per month for those 10 years in a fund that produces a 10% appreciation per year on average. Then they never invest another dollar for the next 30 years and want to retire at 65. Person number two doesn't start investing until age 35, and they invest $500 per month for the next 30 years in the same fund that person number one invested in. So person number two invests for a total of 30 years, person number one only invested for 10 years, then never again added to it. Who has the most money at age 65? Well, person number two invested $500 per month each year for 30 years and received 10% appreciation the whole time. So they ended at age 65 at $986,964. So almost $1 million. Great. Person number one invested only $500 each month for only 10 years, not 30. So by age 35, they had grown to $95,624. Then they just let it sit and compound for the next 30 years, and that $95,624 grew to $1,668,581. That's very close to double what person two has at age 65, and person number one had invested much, much less of their own money. This is a very important piece of information for those of you that are under 30 years old. But if you're not under 30 years old, please don't lose hope. Here's the hard truth for you though. You have to do whatever you can to do this specifically. You need to do literally whatever the heck you can to flood as much money as possible into your investing today, wherever you are today, because this is the youngest that you're ever going to be moving forward. Please don't just give up right here and say, well, I'm not 25 years old, I'm 45, so I lose all that time of compounding. No, you're 45 right now, that's still young, that's still able to continue to invest. Or you're 50, or you're 55. You're not 75, you're not 95. Let's get to it. I know it's tough to find any extra money right now, or else you would just do it. Believe me, I understand. I also know that when I work with people and coach them, we somehow magically find 1 extra hour per day that they could be using to better their future. And that's at a minimum. We usually find 2-3 hours a day, or maybe a full day per week that can absolutely be used towards this. You could do a side gig like Uber or Grubhub or mow a lawn and make $20 to $50 per hour, or an extra $250 per week. That's an extra $1,000 per month. You could also work overtime at your job, or possibly get a second part job and make even more. I hope you see this as an encouragement and also just as an honest truth. If you're 45 and want to retire by 65, you invest $500 per month each year for 20 years and receive 10% appreciation the whole time, you'd be at $343,650. But let's say you take this challenge, this encouragement that I'm trying to give to you, and you just grind for 5 years, so from age 45 to age 50. You make an extra $1,000 per week, so $4,000 extra per month, and now you invest $4,500 just for the next 5 years. That alone will put you at $329,675. Then you back off and just go back to investing the normal $500 per month for the next 15 years after that until age 65. Now you'd be at $1,567,769. What a huge difference. No matter what age you're at or where you're at in life, or if you're just starting out, you can absolutely do this. No excuses. If you want help with something like this and you would like some coaching and some help along the way, to help you to get to that point, but also help you to know exactly what to invest in specifically for you and your goals, just go ahead and email me at ProfessorG.invest@gmail.com and we can work something out for you in a nice little consultation. For now, watch this video on exactly the 3 ETF portfolio that I personally invest in and that so many people have started to invest in and have loved it for the past decade or so. I also go over the exact percentages based off of your age, because it does change based off of your age. Or watch this video that I just did this week to keep you going strong in investing. And remember to keep investing simplified.